Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is the video on React.js sample CRUD example application using state management with the help of Redux Toolkit, which is a state management library. Redux Toolkit is a library that built on top of the Redux. Okay, so it is a state management library. It mainly consists of key components like store, reducer, action, component, selector, and optionally Redux and middleware. Okay, so you can see this diagram. This represents our Redux tool state management. Okay, so here this store will store all the data. Okay, as a center unit, and from that center unit, our application can consume the data. Means any component in our application, if required a particular size of data that was stored in the store, can be easily accessed and consistently maintained between the components. Okay, that is the use of state management. Okay, so here let's understand each of these key things and their responsibilities. Okay, here store is a object that stores our data. Either it is normal static data or a API response data. We are going to save it under the store object. Okay. So how we can store the data into the store? To do that, we can use the reducers. Okay. Reducers are pure functions which they create, which invokes per action and updates the state by generating the new state. Instead of changing the existing state, they will generate a new state and push the state into the store. Okay, that's about the reducers. And actions. Actions are nothing but the events that triggers. Okay, based on that action, reducer gets executes its functionality. Okay, so selectors are nothing but uh, props to retrieve the data from the either a slice of data from the store into the component. Okay, and the Redux-Thunk are middleware functions which will executed before the action method gets executes. Okay, so in this Redux-Thunk middleware we can write the API calls. Okay, let's understand flow now. Suppose there is a component. Okay, and I want to invoke a API call and I want to store the data into the store. Okay, response data, API response data. So component, what it will do, it will trigger some action. Okay, so I want this action, like I want, for example, example API.com, I want to fetch. So whenever this action invoked, okay, if we implemented Redux-Thunk middleware, before the executing of the action method, Redux-Thunk middleware, what it will do, it will execute the API call logic. Once the response is invoked, once the response is received, or once the Redux-Thunk is executed, it will dynamically uh, listens listens for three kind of actions. One is pending action, one is fulfilled action, one is rejected action. So whenever the request is still pending, means response is not at received, but API call is invoked. At that time, Redux-Thunk invoke action called pending action. Okay, so we can write whatever logic to update into our store. Okay, like uh, we can store a variable like loading, okay, in the store, and we can assign like pending value for that. Okay, and another action is fulfilled. That means API is successful and response we got. At that time, this action method executed. So in this, we can write a logic for updating our store with our response API data. And another thing is rejected. So this will be to handle the any API errors occurs. Okay. Once that action, if the action is fulfilled, if the API response is fulfilled, we will write a logic to update the action. So reducer will update the store without data. Okay. And our store will contain our API response. Now in the same component, we will write selector for fetching the slice of data. Okay. So selectors, what it will do, whatever slice of data or full data if you want, we can write a selector. Based on that selector, we can read the data from the store to any component in our application. So that is the basic flow of the React Redux tool. Okay. Now let's create a sample application and implement CRUD operations with the help of state management using the Redux Toolkit. Okay. So here is the command for generating the normal React.js application, that is npx space, okay, and React template name, that is create hyphen React hyphen app space name of your project. Okay, let's enter to create the project. Okay, our project created successfully. Let's open our project. Okay, here is our React application. Now let's install the React Bootstrap library. Okay, in this demo, I am going to use the React Bootstrap UI React components. Okay, for that, go to React Bootstrap and from the getting started, here is the command for installing the React Bootstrap as well as Bootstrap. Okay, so copy this command, open the terminal. Okay, install the library. Okay, React Bootstrap installed successfully. And now go to the index.js file. Here, let me import the Bootstrap CSS file reference. Okay, so dist CSS bootstrap.min.css. And here, let's clean up some unimportant things. Let's remove this web vital reference and also here method calling and also remove the React strict mode. Okay, so these are the changes I want to do in the index.js file. Now, first thing is I want to create a component. So that component defines my master template. Master template means we can have a shared uh, HTML content like a header and footer, like those things. So I will create a master template and I am going to name that component name as layout. Okay. For that, what I am going to do, I will create a folder structure like inside of src components. Okay. And it is a shared, right? My layout is a shared for every page. So I will create folder like shared. So inside of shared folder, I will create a component like layout.js. Okay. So now let's define my component. So constant layout name of my component. Okay. Equal to arrow function and it should return imaginary tags for now. And here export the component default and layout. Okay. Now here I want to add the uh, React Bootstrap navbar component. For that, go to React Bootstrap website. Okay, here click on the components and here you can see the navbar component. Okay, from here, let me copy one of the navbar component. Okay, let me copy this navbar component and add it here. I want my menu full width of the page, so let me remove the container inside of it. Okay, I don't want any menu items. Let's remove it. And my application name, I will add here for navbar component like I'm going to do some display the cars. We'll name it like cars. Okay. And then since we are using the React Bootstrap navbar, right? Let's import the namespace as well. Okay. So import the namespace. So this is my menu and I want to display it on every page. Okay. And here I will create container outside. Okay. Container, bootstrap container. Okay. Namespace also imported. So I want to display all the pages like any home page, about page, privacy policy page, any kind of content I want to display inside of this container. So how we have to display the content inside of it? We can use props and open the expression props.children. So now what it will do means this layout element wherever used and inside of it we will render any page component. That component data will be rendered as a children that can be accessed through this props.children. Okay. So now since it is a master layout template, right? I want to configure it at app component since app component is our entry component. Okay, let me remove all the existing code here, add imaginary tags, and let's add the layout so that my layout will be shared to any page component. And I have mentioned, right, all the page component will be rendered inside of this container, right? For now, I don't have any page components, right? Simply, I will write a text. So this can read either HTML content or a text content or any expression it can render here. Okay. So for now, hi everyone. Okay. So this is my simple message. Okay. Now let's run and check whether we are able to see our menu and also the text message inside of it. Okay. So let me run my application. For that, let me open another console command. Okay. And command to run our application is npm start. See, we got nice black color menu bar and the content is not coming here. So, hi everyone, that message I am not able to see. It is not coming. Sorry, it is children. Some spelling error. Now it is coming, right? Okay. Next, I want to create a page level component. Okay. So this page level component is like a home component for me. And in that component, I am going to display all the collection of items from my API. Okay. So for that, inside of the src, let me create one more folder like pages. Okay. And I am going to name my page level component like all cars.js. Then name of our component all cars arrow function. Okay. Returns imaginary tags for now. I am a all cars page component. Okay. And export the component. So export all cars. Okay. So this is my page component. And I have mentioned, right, it is my home component, right? So let configure the routing for my React.js application. Okay. For that, search like React DOM, React router DOM, npm. Okay. Click on the link. So npm install react-router-dom. So this is the library we need to require for configuring the routing. So copy that command, open terminal and install the library. So React Router DOM library successfully installed. To confirm it, you can check in package.json file and look for the reference of it. Okay, here is the React Router DOM, which is the version 6. Okay, now I am good to configure the React router since app.js is the entry file, right? And here is the parent or page level content I am rendering, right? Because it is going to layout and it will render here. That means I am going to configure the routing inside of the layout component. For that, I can use routes component that's load from the React route. Okay. Inside of routes component, we can configure the child route component. Okay. So route that also loads from the React component. So for the route, we can configure the attribute like path. Since I am specifying it is my home page, right? Simply slash. That means it is a home page component. And to that, we can define a attribute like element, and to that element expression we have to pass our component. That means for this path, load this element we are specifying for the route. Okay, so what is my page level component? All cars. Okay, and I can use self closing tag to make it short. Okay, so I have configured the home page routing, and since here we are using the routes, right? So in the index.js where our app component is loading, it should be wrapped around the browser router. Okay, that also loads from the React router DOM so that it can inject the routing configurations into our application. Okay, now let's try and reload. For home page, we should see this message now. I am a cars page component. Okay, see, it is automatically refreshed and it is showing I am all cars page component. That means our home page component is successfully configured with our route. Okay. Now let's install the Redux Toolkit packages. Okay. For that you can search like Redux Toolkit. Okay. And click on the first link and go to get started. So in this get started, it will show you the command to create with the Redux inbuilt as a template, but our project is already created, right, without Redux. So for that, what we can do in the tutorial section, go to quick start, and here is the command npm install @redux.js/toolkit and redux react-redux means here we are installing Redux and the React toolkit because Redux toolkit is dependent on the React Redux. Okay, so copy this command and install the Redux.js toolkit and React Redux as well. Okay, packages successfully installed. To confirm it, go to package.json file, and here is the Redux.js toolkit, which is 1.8.5, the latest version, and also React Redux, that is 8th version. Okay, so Redux toolkit nothing but to reduce the boilerplate code for written in React Redux. It was came into the picture. Okay, in React Redux we have to define very complex code and lot of boiler code and heavy code we have to write. That all heavy code is slimmed by using the Redux toolkit. Okay, so now we are going to create and configure the basic store. So for that, in the SRC, I am going to create a folder like features. Okay, so inside of features, I will have a root file like store.js. Okay, this is my root store file, and we will have individual folders for each feature. Means now I am working with cars, right? For that cars, I will going to create a one folder. If I am working with car service, I am going to create a one folder like that. If I am working with spare parts, I am going to create one more folder for that like that. Since I am here, I am working on cars, right? I am going to create a folder like cars, and inside of it I have to create the store file that related to the cars. To write the all logic related to store, there is one feature called create a slice. Okay, create a slice is nothing but a function or a container that holds initial state, reducers, actions, and selectors. Okay, for a particular feature, here my feature is car, right? For this car feature, reducers, actions, selectors, okay, and initial state. Everything will be hold inside of the cars and with very minimum code. Okay, so for that purpose, we will name a file like car slice.js. Okay, now I have to create the uh, slice, car slice. Okay, so constant car slice. Okay, so create slice. Okay, that load from the Redux.js toolkit. So this is a function and it holds initial state value. Okay, name of the slice, actions, and reduction and selectors. Everything can be defined in this single file only with less number of code. Now, for store to maintain the data, we should have an object, right? And that object should have initial data, right? So I will create initial state like this is my initial store state. Okay, initial state. Okay, normal object. Okay, so in this initial state, I am going to store my API response of the cars data. Okay, so I will prepare a property like cars data, and it should be a array. Initially empty array. Okay, and I want to create one more property like loading. So this loading property represents the uh, state of the API call, whether it is pending, completed, or rejected. So what is the use of this loading means if you want to display a spinner or if you want to disable a button once save is clicked at that time, we can consider the state of the our API call. Okay. So initially it is idle means no change in the API call. Okay. And now, so this is my initial state object. Okay. So now in the create slice, I can first define the name of the slice. I will name it like car, any name you can give. Okay. But you should give some name. Okay. And here, next thing is reducers. Okay. So here reducers contains properties of individual action methods. Okay. For now, I'm not creating any action methods. I'm just defining the skeleton for my car slice. Okay. And here we have to pass initial state as well. So it will take this initial state. Okay. And along with reducers, there is one more thing called extra reducers. Okay. So this extra reducers uh, is depend upon the async thunk middleware. For now, without using async thunk middleware also we can use the store. So my intention is I want to show the state management without async thunk, and later I want to change the code to how it will look if you use the async thunk. At that time when we use async thunk, the action methods are going to be registered here. Okay, so this is the extra reducers. So this is the create slice object. And now for now I have to export the reducer from my create slice as a default. Okay. So export default and car slice dot reducer. Okay. So I'm exporting my reducer. So this is my car slice. Okay. And now I want to configure my store and I want to register my cars reducer. So for that, what I will do, constant, sorry, export constant store. Okay. And to configure a store, we can use configure store. Okay. And here inside of it, we can register the reducer. Okay. Since I have already exporting my car slice reducer, right? I want to register it here. So import car reducer Okay, from cars/car slice. Okay, so let me name my car reducer like cars. Okay, and register our car reducer. Okay, so that's it. We have configured our car reducer with our store. Okay, now this store to need to be injected into our components at our application level. So for that, I can go to index.js to inject the store into our entire applications. We have to use a element like provider. Okay, so this provider loads from normal React Redux. Okay, and inside of this provider, let's copy all our content. Okay, so now this provider will have a attribute like store, and to this store we have to register our store we are exporting from our JS, this store. Okay, so for that what I can do, import store from, okay, futures/store. Okay, and I can pass the store. That means we are making our store available to every component inside of the application. That is why we are registering this provider as a root component, parent of every component. Okay, so that's about the initial configuration of our React Redux React Toolkit. Okay, to implement CRUD operation, we have to have a API call, right? So for that, I am going to set up a fake JSON API that supports create, update, read, and delete all CRUD operations. And it is very easy. As a UI developer, I am not concerned about any API logic. Okay. So for that, you can search like JSON server. Okay. And click on this NPM and go to this GitHub link. Okay. And first thing is you have to install JSON server globally into your system. For that, you have to run this command anywhere by opening the command prompt. Okay, the command is like npm install -g, that means install globally JSON server. Okay, so that is the global installation. And now I want to run the JSON server. So to run the JSON server, there is a command. Let me show you the command. So this is the JSON server command. JSON server --watch db.json. So if you run this command, your JSON server will start running. Okay. But the problem is with this command, by default JSON server runs under port number 3000. And our application also runs under port number 3000, React application. So no two application cannot run under same port in a local machine. Okay, so for that we have to define the port number explicitly. So for that we have another option to specify the port number explicitly. Okay, here is the command. Okay, here specifying the port number explicitly. Okay, so what I will do, I will copy this command. And since it is a demo purpose, right, I am going to set up the JSON server inside of my React.js application itself. So I will go to package.json and I will create a script like JSON server, that is the script name, and paste it over here. I want to run this at port number 4000. Okay. Okay. Now to run this server, open terminal and open one more terminal. Okay. And here run command like npm space run and command name JSON-server. Okay, so what it will do, it will going to run the JSON server and it will store a JSON db.json file where it contains JSON object, and that JSON object is returning as a API response. Okay, so if you observe here, there are some endpoints, right? So these are all defined based on the JSON uh, object that was stored in db.json. So whenever you first create the command, this is the db.json file get created, and this is the default objects, and each object will work as a one endpoint. You can check here. Here there is a console log, right? It will showing endpoints, okay? But I don't want this kind of data as my response. So I will create my own endpoint since I have already prepared some object to show my cars, okay? So copy that object and paste it over here. Okay, this is my endpoint. If you check, a new endpoint is created with my cars slash cars. How it is created means root property is taken as a path. Okay, now if I copy this command URL and if I paste it here and run, I can see the API is working, right? So that is how we can set up a local server. And not only get API, it support every HTTP request. Okay, if I go here, you can see the routes: get route, post route, put route, patch route, delete route. Every HTTP request route is supported. So now I have set up my API also, and I want to implement the read operation by using the Redux Toolkit state management. Okay, now we are trying to implement the read operation in our CRUD operations, okay, using the state management with the help of Redux Toolkit. So we know, right? We have a file like car slice. So go to there. So now I want to create two action methods inside of the reducer so that the data or the state of the store will be updated. Okay. Here you can see, right? Actions uses reducers to push the data into the store that we implement now. So the first action, I want to name it like, okay, all cars. So this is related to my all cars component, right? So naming will be represents my component or the functionality I'm going to implement. Okay, all cars loading. Okay, this is my action method name, and it takes state as the input parameter with the arrow function. Okay, now my requirement is this all cars action method, all cars loading action methods. I want to trigger to update the state of the loading property to pending. So loading property pending means that represents API call is not yet completed. Okay. So with this help of loading property, I can display some spinners or loading symbols on my website before displaying the actual content, because there will be a delay for API response, right? In that time, we can nicely represent our website with a spinner. For that, we can use this loading property. So here what I will do, state dot, okay, loading, okay, assign this property to pending. And if you see, we are directly mutating the state, but actual state rule is we should not mutate the or change the existing state. Either we should generate a new state with our updating values, okay. But here also we are mutating, but internally there is a library called immer used by the React toolkit. What it will do, it won't mutate the actual state. It just regenerates the updated state or a new state with the updated values. Okay, that is the beauty of the Redux toolkit. So we are no need to bother whether we are violating any rules of our state management. Okay, so loading pending. So this is my action method. And now I want to create another action method like all cars received. That means API call completed. Okay. So here state, and now here I my action method will take payload property also. This payload is nothing but my API response. Okay, I can take it like payload. So here now what I will do, I will change the state dot loading to back to again to idle. Okay, because our API call completed, and I want to update the data to my car data. Okay, so I will directly assign the payload. And now we have to export these action methods. So to export the action methods, we can do like export constant and just use same names. Okay, and car slice dot actions. Okay, like this we can export our action methods. And now let me create two selectors for loading the, so those selectors I can use in my component for fetching the slice of data, any slice of data. So here you can observe, to get the any data from the store, we have to use the selector. Okay, selectors, what they will do, as per their definition, selection definition, they are going to get any kind of slice of data from the store to any kind of component that invokes them. Okay, so now let's define selectors like, directly we will export them. Okay, export constant, I will name it like get all cars. So this selector helps to get the all cars data. Okay, store state cars data, whichever component invokes this selector. Okay, so here what we will do, we can define a arrow function by inputting a state variable. Okay, so here to return this car data, okay, what we have to write means state dot and name of the reducer. So what is my car slice reducer name? Cars. So copy this name, okay, paste it. Dot, and we can fetch the any property from our state. Okay, I want to fetch the cars data, right? I will fetch that. Okay, this is my get all cars selector. Now I am going to read loading property also by creating one more selector. So get loading. Okay, here also same. State will be the input parameter and state dot name of the reducer, that is cars dot property loading. So our property is loading, right? That loading. So this is the selectors. Now any component can utilize these selectors to fetch the data from the store. Okay. So from this diagram, what we can understand, we have a store now. We have a reducers now, and also we have actions and the selectors. Now to get the API call, here we are seeing Redux-Thunk middleware, right? So Redux-Thunk middleware is an optional one. So first what I will do, without using the async Redux-Thunk middleware, first we will implement the actual logic read operation. Okay. Later we will change our code how it will be when we use the Redux-Thunk middleware. Okay. So first we will do without the Redux-Thunk middleware. So go to our all cars component, and here we have to display the API response. We have a API, right? So this is our API. This API response, I want to store it into the state management store, and then using the selectors, I want to fetch it into my all cars component. Okay. So here what I can do means, first to get the all cars, here all cars data is there, right? To get this cars data, what I can write means I can use selector. See, that is loads from the React Redux. Okay. So to this use selector, I can pass my selector name. So to get all cars, what is my selector? Get all cars. So I have to use this all cars selector. So let's import this all car selectors here. Import from, okay, and here import the get all cars. Okay. So here pass the get all cars, uh, and so this selector going to return the our property cars data property, which is a array object. So here what I will do, I will store it into the variable like constant all cars data. Okay, so this will contains our all cars data, and that data we have to bind it to our UI. Okay, and I also want to know the state of the API. So to know the state of API, we have a property like loading. Okay, so for loading also we have a selector get loading. So I can use the get loading to know the state of the API call. So let's import the get loading. Okay, so here use selector get loading. Okay, and assign it to the variable. So I will name the variable like API status. Okay, so these are the selectors for fetching the data from the store. So from this picture we can understand, right? Selectors are consumed by components, and selectors what they are doing? They are doing fetching the data from the store. Okay, now I want to call a API call. Okay, so for that we know we can use effect, which is a React hook. Okay, here I want to implement my API call logic. So to invoke the API calls, we have to install the third party most recommended library, that is Axios. Okay, click on the Axios npm link. Okay, copy the command and open the terminal. Install Axios. So Axios successfully installed. So what I will do here, inside of it, I will create one method like, okay, constant invoke all cars API. I will create a asynchronous arrow function. Okay. So here what I will do, I will listen for the response. So API response equal to Axios dot get to invoke the HTTP GET request. So let's copy our API call. So this is our API, right? Copy the URL and paste it here. Okay, since it is a AJAX call, asynchronous call, just await it. Okay. Now here we want to call the action methods two times. One is for updating the API state, that is like loading. Another one is once the API data response is received, that data must be pushed to the store. So here you can see, right, component invoke the action method, and action method inside of the reducers pushes the data into the store. That we are doing this part. Okay. So here what I will do for invoking the action methods, we have to use the dispatch. So let's define my dispatch. Okay, use dispatch, initialize the dispatch, and now here I want to invoke this action method for updating the state. What action method? All cars loading. Okay, so what I can do, dispatch. Okay, open brackets. See here action. So I have to import the action name, that is my all cars loading. Okay, so here I can call my all cars loading action method. Okay, so what it will do, it will invoke the all cars action method and pushes the whatever the logic we have written here, changes the state data. Okay, so now after getting the response, I want to invoke the this action method all cars received. So let's import all cars received action method. Okay, again call the dispatch here. Okay, and all cars received. Since it should pass payload, right? So API response dot data. Okay, and this should be invoked immediately, right? So I have to call it here. Invoke API. Okay, so that is my logic. So whenever this dispatch pushes the data into our store, right, this variable, selector variable automatically gets updated. Okay, changes will be always updated by the use selectors. Okay, so next what we can do, I will create a variable here like let content to render. Okay, so initially empty. Okay, and here what I want to do, I will add a container. Okay, that is React Bootstrap container, some class, a margin top, and here I want to pass that content to render. So why I am creating this content to render means I am dynamically pushes the JXX code into this variable. Okay, so now here I will assign it like content to render equal to based on the API status variable. So API status equal to pending. That means API call is in action. Okay, equal to pending. Then I want to return one kind of JSX code. If not pending, I want to return actual content rendering code. So here what I will do, here first if it is pending, I want to show the spinner. So go to React Bootstrap website. So go to components and here you can find spinners. Okay, let me copy this content. Okay, let me add a div and inside of the div, let me add the spinner content. Okay, so let's import the spinner namespace as well. Okay, add it here. And here, let's give some class styling. And here I want to display the cards of item to display my API response. For that, go to cards component. Okay, let's go to the bottom to get my desired layout. So this is the content I want to have. Okay, copy it and paste it in the else condition. Okay, so let's import the all the namespaces required here. Add it over here. Okay, now here we are seeing the array looping, right? So remove this array and we know where we get our data, right? All spinners car data, which gets data from the get all cars selector. So let's use that variable that will be a array. So initially no data, initial state what is there, empty will be assigned to the that variable. If the data is pushed here, then its state is updated, right? That data will be automatically updated into this variable by the selector of the state. Okay. So all cars data, let me write it like car. To avoid the warning, let's assign key value here car.id. Okay. And now for the image, here id value, what are the property bindings that comes from my API response. Okay. So copy the image URL here like car.image URL. Okay. And title car.name. Yes, car.name. And here what I will do, model year car.year. Okay, this is my binding and I want to display 3 cards per column. Okay, let's reduce the size. Okay, that's our logic. Now let's test it. So please make sure to run our API service as well as our React.js service. See here, I am able to see. If I reload, see, you can see the loader just fraction of seconds because it will display until the API response is received. The loader. Okay, and if you inspect the elements, so there is a browser tool called Redux. Please install it. Redux, you can get the browser extension, Chrome extension, Redux. And here you can see the invocation of all our state management. See, my action method, all cars are loading and its data. See, what is the previous data and what is the updating data. And here my all cars received action method. See, so we can trace what is happening inside of the store using the Redux store. Okay, just here our action method names gets printed automatically. Okay, so from this we have successfully implemented the uh, read operation by fetching the data from the Redux Toolkit store. Okay, so here we are using uh, without Thunk async middleware, right? Next, we are going to update our code. This read operation only, we update our code using the Thunk async middleware. Okay. Okay. Previously, in read operation, we have implemented state management without the Redux Thunk middleware, right? Now, our main focus is to implement the Redux Thunk middleware. So, we will rewrite the read operation. Okay. So, to implement the Redux-Thunk middleware, let's go to our car slice JS file. Okay, so here let me write my middleware. I will directly export it. Okay, I will name it like HR cars API. Okay, equal to create async thunk. Okay, so it will take input parameter like name of the thunk. I can name like car slash get API. Okay, so this name only will be used for generating the name of our actions as well. Okay, and the second parameter will be the async arrow function. Okay, so to this async arrow function, I can implement my API call logic. Since we have already written API call logic in our all cars, right? So same way we will implement here. Okay. How to import the Axios namespace. Okay, is imported. And now let's just return the response type from this method. Okay, so that's it. That is our Thunk middleware. Okay, now since it is a Thunk middleware, right? It can invoke three kind of actions. Okay, extra reducer actions like binding, rejecting, and fulfill. So pending means API call still in progress. Fulfill means API call is successful. Rejected means API call is failure. Okay, so we can register all these three different extra reducer action methods if you want. Okay, whatever action method we require, those only we can register. So to register the extra reducers, so here in the extra reducers, we can write like builder dot add case. Okay, here first parameter will be the our thunk async action name. Okay, what is our thunk async name? Fetch API cars, right? Dot, here you will see pending. Okay, automatically these properties we can see here by the intelligence. Okay, and second parameter will be the arrow function of our action method. Okay, state changing. So it will be like state and action and an arrow function. So it is a pending state, right? So what I will do, I will simply assign loading equal to pending. So totally what we are doing means we are implementing our actions in the extra reducers and we are going to remove the normal reducer action methods. Okay. So now I got this pending setting. So I can remove this uh, all cars loading action methods. Okay. And also I am going to register one more case like fetch API call dot fulfilled. Okay. That means API is successful. That case state comma actions. Okay. Arrow function here. I will implement same logic. All cars received logic. I will copy and paste it here. Okay. So action dot payload. Okay. So what is difference between these reducers and these reducers means here we manually invoking all cars and all cars received and all cars loading action methods. We manually invoking here. So before API call, we are invoking the all cars loading. After API successful, we are invoking the all cars received. But with the help of Thunk casing, it will determine API state and it will invoke automatically the actions that were registered in the extra users. Okay. So that is the beauty of the Redux-Thunk middleware. So what I can do, I can remove these action methods, okay, and also remove the references of those action methods, okay. So I can remove this entire API call from my component, okay. This is the API call invocation, everything carried out by the Thunk async middleware, okay. Now this Thunk async middleware is like a kind of a action method, okay, but it will intercept the action before invoking the action methods of the extra reducers. Okay, so we can use this name as a action. So go to our all cars and here let's import the fetch all cars API Thunk async name. Okay, now what I can do, dispatch of fetch API call. Okay, that's it. That is our refactor code. Okay, using the Redux Thunk middleware. If you run our website now, it should work as like previous. Okay, so if I reload, see I am able to load the API data. If I inspect element and if I go to Redux tool, and here you can see the action method names, the car slash get API slash pending and car slash get API slash fulfilled. Okay, so these are updating states. How these names, action names are framed means if you go to our car slash JS, here we define our Thunk middleware name, right? So it will use this name slash the state pending. Okay, Thunk middleware name slash fulfilled. Those names are automatically used as a action name. Okay, so that's all about how we can write our API calls using the async Thunk middleware in Redux Toolkit. Previously, we have implemented read operation, right? Now, our main focus is on create operation. Okay, for creating a new item, we will focus on create operation. So, for that, first let me create a new page level component like add car component. So, inside of the pages folder, let me add my new component like add car.js. Okay, and let's define our component constant add car. Okay, let's for now return imaginary tags and export default add car. Now let's register a route for our add car. For that, go to our app component, and here let me add one more route tag and path like add car, and in the element attribute specify our add car component. Okay, so that is our route configuration. Now my target is I want to create a form here, okay, in our add car component, so that that form will help us to create the new items. So for integrating the forms, I am going to use the third-party library like React Hook Form library. Okay, so let's install the React Hook Form library. Search like React Hook Form and click on this link and go to Get Started and copy this link. Open the terminal, install the package. Okay, our package installed successfully. Now let's go to our carslice.js file and implement our store logic. Okay, so I'm going to carslice.js. So for creating a new record means we are going to deal with the HTTP post request. So for that we are going to create one more Redux-Thunk middleware. Okay, so first create the Redux-Thunk middleware constant. So create new car API and use create thunk, and I can name the thunk name like cars slash create API. Okay, and it should have a asynchronous arrow function. Okay, and now this async function will take payload as a input parameter. Okay, we have to post right our form data that payload. So constant API response equal to await Axios dot post for post request. But what is the endpoint for post request? For that, you can go to the JSON server documentation and you can figure out the what is the post endpoint. So in the JSON server, you can see the post endpoint is nothing simple your route only. Okay, that means I can use same my get URL. Okay, and but this post method expects payload as a second parameter. So we have payload, right? I can use that as a second parameter. And finally, we simply return the response from our Thunk Redux middleware. Okay. So now this is a new Thunk, right? This is also supports pending state, rejected state, and fulfilled state. That means we have to register our required state of extra reducers. Okay. So same builder dot each state we can register as a case here. Add case and new, sorry, create car new API dot pending. Okay, it's going to have a state management arrow function. Okay, and I can simply copy this line of code because here we are specifying our API is busy. That means pending, not yet received the response. Okay, same way, one more case. So builder dot add case, create car new API and fulfilled. If the API is successful, then state, okay, and action it will return, and I can change the state of loading property to idle. Now this action method contains a payload. That payload is nothing but our newly created record. So what I will do, start dot parse data dot unshift means I want to push my data top of the existing store records. Okay, so action dot payload. Okay, okay, we are done with our store changes. Next, let's focus on our form, creating the form. Okay, so Go to our add car component. Here, let me create a bootstrap container. Okay, some margin top. And let me add a row component and call component. All these are React Bootstrap components. Okay, so I want to center my form. So call MD8 and offset MD2. Okay, now here let me add my React Bootstrap form. Let's give the heading creative. Okay, and add the form tag. Let's copy the form fields from the React Bootstrap website. So open the React Bootstrap, go to components, and here click on the forms. Okay, so from here let me copy this form group. Okay, put the form. So here I don't want this form text. Okay, so remove the placeholder. Type will be text. Okay, so I want three form fields. One is for name, one is for model, year of the model, and one is for image URL. So let me duplicate this form group. Okay, and let's rename the control ID, name, and label to name. Okay, and this will be the model year. Okay, here I can specify model year. Okay, and here image URL, image URL. Okay, and now let's integrate our form with React hook form. For that, I can use form. So I have to import the use form from React hook form. Okay, use form. Okay, here we have to define initial values. So I will define my field names like name, empty, year, okay, empty value initially, and image URL. Okay, so this is my form model, and let's retrieve some controls from the form model. Okay, I want control as well as handle submit. Okay, now so this form for on submit event we have to use our handle submit method. Okay, but this submit has to take our custom form posting method as a input parameter. So I will create a function like create new car. Okay, new car form arrow function. Since it will be used by the handle submit, it will automatically pushes the form data with the data property. Okay, so I can pass this to this method. Okay, handle submit. Now here, let me prepare the payload for posting the data to the API call. Okay, to prepare the payload, you can take the reference of our DB.json. Property name should be like this. Okay, name, year, image, URL. Okay, so let me create the payload. So for ID, we don't require ID will be automatically generated at the server for the new record. So I will ignore ID. I will use name and data. Almost property names are same only. So data.name, but why I am explicitly specifying means all the form data will be written as a string, but my year must be number while posting through the server. That is why I am parsing individually. Okay, here and convert the data to number. So here and image URL data dot image URL. Okay, I'm just fetching the form fields, but I forgot to register them. These names in default values I have registered, right? Field names I have to register them. So to register them, what we have to do means we have to use an element like controller. Okay, so first let me import it from the hook form controller. Okay, so I have to use that element here. So here first let me specify the name attribute. So this name attribute must match with our default field names. Okay, and second will be the control. Okay, and to this control we have to pass our control variable from the use form. What control variable we have, right? That control. So pass it. Next I have to define the render attribute. Okay, so it takes the arrow function. Okay, field. And I can pass my form control as a input to it. Okay, like this I have to specify. If you want to know about the React hook form and how to implement the validations or how to integrate with the form, I have already made a couple of videos on them. You can watch them. So like this, we have to define the control. So let me copy this and replace it here. Okay, and replace it here as well. Only thing is we have to change the names, those names what we registered here. Okay, so here and image URL. Okay, I am good with my form. So I have to add a button for form submit. So here, let's copy the button. Okay, and the button type must be submit. Okay, let add dark color. And let's also import the button namespace. Okay. Now, if I submit form, I want to disable this button. Okay. So for that, I will depend upon the loading property of my state. Loading means API is still in progress, right? So here what I will do, I will use selector. Okay. And I am going to use get loading. Okay. So I will assign it to a variable like API status. So here what I will do for the button, I will add disabled property and I will add the conditional expression like API status equal to pending. Then only disable the button. Okay. I will apply same condition for displaying the text also here. Okay. API status equal to pending. Then I want to show the text message like create. Okay. Or else simply create. Okay. Here colon. So using the state value, we can disable the button like that. Okay. Now we want to invoke our car slice thunk middleware. For that, in our create new form method, I can dispatch that thunk middleware. So first, let's create a variable for our dispatch. So constant dispatch equal to use dispatch. Okay. So here I can call like dispatch and create new car API. And now for the thunk method, we have input parameter payload, right? So here we can pass the payload. So payload I prepared. Okay. So now after successfully adding the new record, I want to navigate back to my home page. So for that, I will use navigation here, React router doc. So constant navigate, okay, equal to use navigate method. Okay. So what I will do, I will observe this dispatch. Here we can write like unwrap. It will retrieve the response from the thunk middleware. Okay. And then finally, what I will do, I will navigate back to my home page. For that, I can use the navigate variable and I can specify my home page route. Okay. So that's it. So here we are waiting for our thunk middleware completion to navigate back to our home page. Okay. So I think that's all about the changes in the add car component. And the thing we have to do is to navigate to the add component, I have to add a button here on top of this card, like a add button. So if I click on that add button, I will navigate back to my add cars component, new component. So for that, what we have to do means in all cars.js, I have to add the new button for the navigation. So what I will do here in the container, I will change like a row, two rows I will create. So in the second row, I will give my content to render. Okay, in the first row, let me add my button. Okay, so call. Okay, I want this button should be in the middle. So call MD4 offset MD4. Okay, let me copy the button. So I will copy this button and add it here. I don't want any disable like those things. Okay, it will be a static string here like add. Okay, but the thing is it should be button because here is no form, right? It should be a button. And let's also import the button namespace. So where is my button? Button namespace into the all cars component. Okay. Now for this button click event, I have to take my navigation from home page to add car component. So for that, let's create a navigation variable here, const navigate equal to use navigate. Okay, since it, I required only single line of code, so I will directly use the arrow function here for the button click. So on click, I will write a arrow function and I will specify like I will use that navigate variable and I will specify the path. So in the app there, we have defined the route, right? Copy that route and add it here. Okay, that's it. I think we are done with the logical implementation for the create operation. Let's test it. In add car component, small mistake I have done. Here for the form control, we have to bind the field attribute that is inputting here. Here for render attribute, there is a field, right? That should be binded here. Okay. Same way for all elements, triple dots and field. Okay. Field. Okay. Now let's try to test our create operation. Okay, now click on the add button. See, we are successfully navigated onto the create a new car form. And here you can see our action methods automatically triggered, and also observe this further as well, because now when we create our new item, our create thunk middleware action methods get invoked. Okay, so I have also prepared a object. So let me enter it into this form. Okay, this is my new car 2022 model, and let me add the image URL. Okay, now if I click on, I should be able to save the data to the server and then to the state as well. Okay, so click on it. See, my new record is successfully added. If I observe the developer tool, here you can see create API slash pending, create API slash fulfilled. See, this is the new record that we pushing into our state, right? And this is the pending state we are changing while we click on the create button, right? So, but if we observe after create call, this is our create call. Okay, this is our payload. After the create call, when we navigate back to our home page, if you observe again API is call is invoking, which is a waste, right? Because all the data is already available in our store itself. So it is good to retrieve the data from the store instead of calling API every time. So what I will do, first let me from the db.json, first let me remove the newly added record. Okay, so that I will add again. That is first step. And go to all cars.js, and in the use effect, I will check whether the car data is already exist. Okay, all cars data dot length equal to 0. That means no data. At the time only invoke the API call, or else it simply automatically fetches the data from the store. Okay. Go to our website, reload the page, newly created record removed from our db.json file, so it won't appear. We have to create it again. Okay, let me copy the name, model. Okay, and the image URL. Now if I check, I can see after creating there won't be any API call, but data will be refreshed on our home page. Okay, so let's check it. And one more thing, you can observe button will be disabled on clicking it, and you can also see the label of the button also changes. See, now I am clicking. See, it is so fast you are not able to see. Okay, but my new car is see, my new car is now coming at the top. That is because I have pushed it on the top of the list, because in the store, I have used unshift, right? Unshift, what it will do means it will push the new record on top of the existing record. That is why my new record coming here as a first. And if you check the network calls, so this is my create call with the payload, but there is no get call. Okay. And here also you can check. After calling the create API action method, there is no get API action methods again. That means API call is not invoked, but the data is refreshed through the state. Okay. So that's all about the create operation. Next, we are going to focus on the update operation. So now our main focus is on update operation. Okay. So let's create a new component. Okay. Page level component. So inside of the pages, let me create a new component like edit car.js. Okay. So constant edit car arrow function, and for now return imaginary tags. Okay. And export the component. So now let's configure the route for this edit car component. We know in app component we are registering our routes. So add one more route. Okay. And path I will define like edit hyphen car. Okay. But here for this path I want the dynamic value in the URL. What the dynamic value means, nothing but our item ID. So why we want to add a dynamic ID means whenever we land into our edit component page, we should get the item to edit, right? So for that we are going to depend upon the ID value in the URL. So for that we have to define the dynamic route. So to define a dynamic route placeholder, you have to write like colon ID. So ID is the dynamic placeholder. Okay. And we know we need to configure element. So that is edit car component. Okay. So that's our routing. Now let's go to our car slice JS and let's implement our edit API Thunk middleware. Okay. So go to carslice.js. So here already we implemented two Redux-Thunk middlewares, right? One for fetching and one for creating new item. Same way we are going to create a one for the update. Okay. So let's implement it. Export const update car API is my Thunk name. Okay. And here I will name like cars slash update API. Okay. And it will be a asynchronous call. It's almost look like our create Thunk middleware. Okay. So constant API response. Okay. Await Axios. Since it is an update, right? So we have to use the put HTTP put request. Okay. So now to frame a put request, we can go to our JSON server documentation. So here is the JSON server GitHub link. And if you go to the documentation for routes, here you can see for put request, your route slash ID value. Okay. And the payload. So here what I will do, I am going to use backticks because my URL should contain a dynamic value, which is nothing but ID, right? So I will use backticks and copy this entire URL. Okay. Slash, here I want the dynamic value. So to add the dynamic value, we can use dollar and open the brackets. So what I will do, payload.id, I will send as in the route. And next second parameter is my payload to update the data. Okay. And we simply return the API response. Okay. And we know that Thunk middleware performs three kind of states like pending, reject, and fulfill. So let's add them in our extra reducer action method. Okay, so first let's add for builder for pending status. Okay, so update core API dot pending. Okay, I can define state. Okay, the action. So what I want to do, this is a pending state, right? So just copy this line of code. Okay, and one more builder case. Update API dot fulfill. Okay, that means update is success. So state comma action. Okay, here we have to implement our logic. Let's copy this line. Once success, make the loading state idle. Now from the car state, okay, first we have to remove the existing data from the store. Okay, so state dot car data dot filter. Okay, I'm filtering id not equal to action dot payload dot id. Okay, so I'm removing the existing data. And finally, state dot car data dot unshift and action dot payload. Okay, so and again pushing the updated data into my store. Okay, so that is our extra reducer. So now let's go to edit car JS, and here we already implemented add car JS form, right? So most of the logic I can copy it from there. So to save some time, let's go to our add car JS component. Okay, first let's focus on the HTML content. So copy the entire HTML content. Okay, and add it here. Okay, and also copy all the namespaces. Almost we are going to use everything here. Okay, okay, namespace imported, and let's try to change anything if you want to change. Okay, I can leave the field names, control names as it is like that. So for registering these names, we have a form, right? So let me copy the form. So where is that form? This is the form. Okay. So from the add component, I need API status, I need dispatch method, I need navigate. Okay, I need use form also. Okay, let me copy the entire code. So JavaScript logic also I'm copying from the add component. From here, I am going to modify them. So I need API status and dispatch. Okay, I need navigate method. That is fine. So here, let me change it to update car form. Okay, this method update car form. So register this method to our handler submit. Okay, so it will read form data. That is fine. But now for update, we have to pass ID also. So ID we have to, for now let's assign 0. We have to read it from URL, right? So let's implement that logic. So for that constant ID, I can use param. Okay, so this will automatically fetches the dynamic route value, but this variable should match with our dynamic placeholder. Okay, then only it can read and assign it to this variable. Okay, now I got ID as well, so I can assign that ID here directly. Okay, so that is fine. And the next thing, this is okay, and I have to call now update car API. Okay, so change it to update car action, nothing but our Thunk middleware. Once update, I want to navigate it to, that is also fine. Okay, change the form heading, update a car. So here in the button, I can do like updating if the status is pending. If not pending, update. Okay. Okay, I think those are the required changes, but I have to populate the default form data, right? That means I need to get a particular piece of data from my store. That means Here we don't have only have two selectors, either to get all the data or to get the loading status, right? So now I want to get the particular data, okay, particular ID related car data here. So for that, let me create a new getter, sorry, new selector. So constant get car by ID, okay. So this is default arrow function, okay. Ultimately, our selector should return a arrow function. So we cannot pass ID value directly. So for that, what I will do, I will create a one arrow function, okay, that internally returns the state, okay, state, because I cannot pass ID like this, okay. That is why we are doing a reverse process. We are creating a arrow function. That arrow function returns the state arrow function, okay. So now here what I can do, here I can write my filter. So state dot car dot car data, okay, dot filter. So in this filter dot id equal to id input id, this id value, okay, and filter returns array, right? So I can use first first element, okay. So now I can invoke this selector here. It should be invoked after this use param because we need id value, right, to input this selector. Here you can see id value, right? So after the use params, let's invoke it. Now constant item to edit, okay, equal to use selector and pass the get car by id, and here id by default read as a string, so we have to convert it to number and id, okay. Here also convert it as number, okay. Now here we got item to id, right? So I can assign that data to my default value so that form gets populated. So item to edit dot name, okay, item to edit dot year, and item to edit dot image URL. Okay. So I have implemented logic for populating my form also with the item to edit. Think that is our logic, and we have to add the edit button on the each item in the all cars component. So go to all cars component, okay. So where I have to create here, here I can add the button so that on each item my edit button will be displayed. Okay, let me define the button inside of the card body, okay. So what I will do, I will copy this button, okay, add it here, and it dark only, but the route will be edit, right, edit car. But here it should have the ID value, right? So instead of double quotes, let's use here backticks and pass our data and dollar and flower brackets and car.id. So that will navigate to the our edit component. So let's test it. And let me change the label to edit. It's showing add. Okay. Yeah, now good, right? So what I will do for this demo, I want to edit the model year to 2020. Okay. So click on the edit. So let's check the network calls and the Redux also. Okay. Here you can see the get API actions. Okay. Now if I click on edit, see my form is automatically populated. Okay. And if now I click on update, I can see the update action methods get invoked. So let me change it to 2020 model. Okay, now I am clicking on the update. See, now here you can see now my edited item added on the top of the list, and it is 2020. And here you can see update API action method, update fulfilled, and pending action methods are invoked. Okay, if you have any doubt, just refresh the page. Okay, from the server it will be third item. That means it is saved successfully at the server also, right? So that's all about the update operation. Okay, next we are going to focus on the delete operation using the Redux toolkit. So now our main focus is on delete operation. Okay, now first let's create the delete endpoint thunk middleware. For that, go to our car slice.js. Okay, so here I can create one more thunk middleware, export constant delete car API. Okay, and create thunk async and name it like car slash delete API. Okay, and we know the second parameter is our async method, and it will contain payload, nothing but the ID of the record we want to delete. Okay, so constant API response await Axios. Since it is a delete, right, we will have delete method. Okay, so to this delete method, simply copy this URL. URL should contain the ID value. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can go to the documentation of the JSON server. ID delete route here. Okay, and here there won't be any payload, and it will simply return the API response dot data. Okay, and we have to register the status of our API calls as the extra reducers. Okay, so let me duplicate these two things. Update API calls. Okay, so here it will be delete API car API. Okay, so this will be pending, and here is delete API fulfill. This will be ideal only. So here after deleting the item at the server, item should be deleted from the store also, car data array. Okay, so let's remove that. And here no need to have this line. Okay, but only thing is action.id, and instead of returning here API response, if it is successful, I want to just return the ID value. Okay, so that I can delete the item. Okay, so that's all about our car slicer changes. Okay, now to delete the item. Okay, here I don't want to create one more page component. Okay, and navigate to that page component and delete the item. Instead of doing that, I want to add a delete button here. So on clicking it, instead of navigating new component, I want to open the React Bootstrap model. Okay, as a confirmation delete. If the user click on the confirmation delete, then we are going to invoke the delete API, and then we can close the pop-up. Okay, so for that, let me create a shared component like a delete confirmation model. So in the components and shared, let me create component like delete confirmation. So I want this confirmation pop as a global to enter my application. If you want to create directly for a specific cars only, then under components create a folder like cars, and inside of it add your component. Okay, but I want this like global one. So constant delete confirmation. Okay, and our arrow function as a component, and return for now imaginary tags, and export the component name. Okay, delete confirmation. Now here let me add the React Bootstrap model. So go to the React Bootstrap website. So go to components and look for model. Here is the model tab, and look for a sample example. Okay, let me copy this one I want this one. Okay, copy this. Okay, add it here. Now let's import the namespaces of the model and as well as button also. We will have a button inside of that HTML. Okay. Okay. Now this should be a generic, right? So everything will comes from the props. That means everything will be input from the parent element. Okay. So here what I will do, I will create a props dot show model. So this property must be come from our parent. Okay. You can define any name you want. I am defining like show model. Okay. For now, let me create simple arrow function, nothing. Okay. So I want this come from the parent. Okay. So props dot title. Okay. And this also props dot body. Okay. And here close also. Let's do arrow function, empty arrow function, and it should be danger, and this should be dark, and it should be a confirm delete. Actually, I want to disable this button based on my API status. So disable. So I will send API status here also props dot API status. Okay, equal to pending. Then disable the button. Same condition I can use for button text change. Okay, so pending means deleting. Okay, or else simply I can say delete. Okay, it should be colon here. Okay, go to our all cars. So what I will do here, let me add this container inside of imaginary tags. Okay, now let's add here our delete confirmation model. Okay, so here what are the properties we have to pass from here? First thing is show model, right? So I will create same property. So this property, right? So that is input property. Here I have to pass the Boolean value. So for that, I will maintain a state variable here. Okay, let's do it here itself directly. Okay, show model, right? So what I will do, I'm going to create use state variable, and initially it is false. Okay, because use show model should be a Boolean value so that if it is true, model will open. If it is false, model will hide. Okay, use state variable. So what I will do, constant. Okay, array. So here what I will do, I will use same this input property name only. If you want to use different property, you can use it, but I will use same name. For left hand side, right hand side, I will use same names. Okay, so show model, set show model. Okay, this is my use state variable. So I can pass this variable to this input show model. Okay, here I have defined same names, but you can define your own names. For left hand and right hand, you can give different names. Okay, so show model I have given, and next thing title. So title no need to be dynamic. I can give like delete confirmation. Okay, next thing like body. So body I will give like are you to delete item. Okay, this is my body. Okay, and API status here, right? So in our component, we already have the API status selector value. So what I will do, I will directly pass it. Okay. So API status equal to, I will pass same variable. Okay. So what are the pending things? Pending things are like hide or on close. We have to pass the method reference from our parent to close the item. Okay. And also confirm delete also we have to pass a method. Okay. Before that, let's focus on how to open the model. So to open the model, let me create a method handler like constant like open delete model. Okay. So it should get id value as a input parameter. So here what I can do, I can send the set show model value to true. That means open the pop-up. Okay. And here we want to create one more state variable to hold our delete item ID. So for that, constant ID to delete item ID to delete. Okay. So set item ID to delete equal to use state. Okay, initial value will be 0. Now here I can set like set item to delete value, the value that this method is passing. Okay, so for convention, end with handler. Okay, it is like a click handler method. Okay, so for that, let me create a delete button here so that pop-up will opens up. Okay, so it should be danger, red color, and delete. Here we have to call our method like open delete handler. Okay, so here I can call like open delete handler id, sorry, car dot id. Okay, so that is our open delete handler, and now we have to handle the closing of the pop-up. For that, let me create one more method like close delete model handler. Okay, so arrow function. So I want these values here. So set the show model to false so that pop-up will be closed, and also reset it to 0. Okay. So we have to pass this handler to our delete confirmation model. So copy that and use the same name for both right hand side and left hand side. If you want, give different names. Okay. This should be right hand side value always the parent component value. Okay. Left hand side value will be the input property to the child component. Okay. Now copy this, and here I can use like props dot. Okay, that means I am getting the reference of the my parent for closing the model. Okay, same way props dot. Okay, that's it. So we are done with our closing also. Now let's check for confirm delete handler. Okay, so let me create a one more handler method to confirm delete. So constant confirm delete handler. Okay, and here we know in our car slice we have our middleware, right? For delete API call we have to dispatch this. So dispatch delete car API, and it should get ID value to delete. So we have item ID to delete, right? I can use that one. Okay, and unwrap, wait until the response comes. Okay, then okay, what I will do, all the logic in the close handler, or else you can call that method only. Okay, for our understanding, I am repeating, or else you can call this method here. Okay, so what we are doing, invoking the delete car API thunk middleware. Once that is successful, we are closing our model and resetting our item to delete value to 0. Okay, I think that's it. Let's try to delete an item. Okay, see, here we are getting delete ID. So let's clear. Okay, now let's click on delete. See, pop-up is came. If I close on cross button, it's closing. Okay, if I close on close button, that is also working. Okay, now let's try to delete the item. Delete button. Okay, okay, I haven't registered the confirm delete handler, right? So let me register the confirm delete handler as well. It should be passed. Okay, so now go to our delete confirmation and confirm delete props dot, okay, method reference. Okay, before testing, there is small correction here in class r/js. So in this here, I am using action.id, right? It will be always payload. Here we can return any value. Here in general, what I am doing, here it will be the updated record. Here it will be the created record. Here it will be the array of record. Same way here for delete API, it is ID. So everywhere it should be common. Means it is payload only. But I have given like ID. So correct it. Please correct it. For the delete API fulfill method, here it should be payload. Now let's test it. Now let's click on delete confirmation and also open the network calls. See, item is removed here. And if I check, see, delete action methods are invoked. If I go to network calls, here is the call for delete item. So that means we are successfully implemented our delete operation. So that's all about a sample React.js application with state management using the Redux Toolkit. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support my channel by subscribing to it. And I also requesting you to share and like the video. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.